Enchantments are incredible. They can multiply projectiles, increase drop rates, and even fix your armors and tools for free using experience. However, not all enchantments were created equal, which is why today, I'm going to discover what the best enchantment in Minecraft is, as well as create a tier list for all of the enchantments. Welcome to Trash Panda Talks, I'm the Trash Panda, and let's get right into it. Now, how exactly does one get enchantments? First, I want to give a quick overview of how enchantments work in the game. If you want to skip this part, go to here or use the chapter down below. There are two main ways that you can get your gears enchanted. The first is through the enchantment table, which, like its name suggests, will enchant your items. The enchanting table can be crafted with 4 obsidian, 2 diamonds, and a book. Interacting with the table will open up this GUI. You can put items here, lapis lazuli here, and the possible enchantments will show up here. Surrounding the enchantment table with bookshelves will increase the possible levels for enchantments, with the max level being 30, which requires 15 bookshelves. Level 30 enchantments also require more lapis and experience levels. The second way to enchant items is with enchanted books and an anvil. Enchanted books can be obtained by looting various randomly generated structures such as ancient cities, desert temples, mine shafts, and jungle temples. They can also be obtained through fishing or by trading with librarians. Vindicators have a chance to drop enchanted books, and they can be received by bartering with piglins. You can also enchant books with an enchantment table. By using an anvil, certain items that are otherwise unenchantable, such as shields, are able to be combined with books to become enchanted. Enchantments can also be combined in anvils by either combining multiple enchanted books together or enchanted items with enchanted books. Multiple enchantments of the same level can also be combined to create a higher level. Combining books cannot exceed the max level of an enchantment, so combining 2 sharpness 5 books will result in 1 sharpness 5 book, not sharpness 6. Now that we know how enchanting works, what are all of Minecraft's enchantments, and which ones are best? First, we have to understand which items are enchantable and which enchantments go on which items. Again, not all enchantments were created equal, which means that not all of them are able to be put on every item. All armor pieces are able to be enchanted, as well as all of the weapons and tools in game. Fishing rods, carrot on a stick, and warp fungus on a stick are all enchantable, so are bows, crossbows, and tridents. Finally, shears, flint and steel, brushes, compasses, and recovery compasses can all be enchanted, as well as elytras and shields. Now, starting with the worst possible enchantments in the game, we have F tier. Starting off, we have the Curse of Vanishing and the Curse of Binding. These enchantments suck. As the name suggests, these are curses. The Curse of Vanishing, when added to items, allows the item to disappear on death, meaning that if an item has Curse of Vanishing and you die, the item vanishes. Curse of Binding, when added to armor, removes the player's ability to take off the armor. These are both F tier enchantments. Moving on up to D tier, we have Blast Protection, Fire Protection, and Projectile Protection. All 3 of these enchantments are worse versions of the actual protection enchantment. All of these enchantments have a max level of 4 and can be applied to all pieces of armor. Blast Protection reduces explosion damage and knockback, Fire Protection reduces fire damage and burn time, and Projectile Protection reduces damage from projectiles. Blast Protection and Projectile Protection are only slightly more useful if you play on a PvP-oriented server and are at risk of getting peppered with arrows or blown up with end crystals. Fire Protection is useful if you tend to spend a lot of time in the nether and have levels to spare for a spare set of armor. Otherwise, Protection will work just fine. All of these enchantments cannot be combined with each other or Protection. Also in D tier is Bane of Arthropods and Smite. Both of these enchantments can be applied to the sword, axe, and mace. They cannot be applied with each other, sharpness, breach, or density, and have a max level of 5. Bane of Arthropods increases damage and applies slowness 4 to arthropod mobs such as spiders, cave spiders, silverfish, endermites, and bees. Smite increases damage to undead mobs such as skeletons and zombies. Both of these enchantments are only useful if you have farms for the aforementioned mobs. Otherwise, regular sharpness will do the trick and affect a wider variety of mobs. All of these enchantments are D tier. Pushing forward to C tier, we have Knockback, Punch, and Frostwalker. Knockback and Punch are very similar enchantments. Both increase knockback on entities hit by the enchantment. Knockback can be applied to swords and Punch to bows and crossbows. When an entity is hit by a projectile shot by a weapon with Punch, the knockback is increased. Both of these enchantments just make it harder to kill things. Unless there's a comically large cliff behind the mob, pushing it back makes it harder to kill, harder to pick up loot drops, and generally just makes fighting a harder experience. Frostwalker is an enchantment that can be applied to boots. It temporarily freezes water in a small radius around the player, which slowly unfreezes as the player moves away. At first glance, this is an incredible enchantment. You can quite literally walk on water. At second glance, however, it completely removes a large portion of water-based mechanics in Minecraft. You can no longer swim, so say goodbye to exploring shipwrecks, dropping down into water is no longer possible, and having an in-floor aquarium is just another pipe dream. Without a doubt, these enchantments are C tier. Now, quickly walking over to B tier, we're starting off with Luck of the Sea and Lure. Both of these are exclusive fishing rod enchantments and have a max level of 3. Luck of the Sea increases the rate of treasure found while fishing, which includes bows, fishing rods, and books, both enchanted and unenchanted, name tags, nautilus shells, and saddles. Lure decreases the time between bites, meaning that the time it takes for something to bite, either fish, treasure, or trash, is greatly decreased. Combine the two together with a fishing rod that has mending, and you suddenly have an amazing early game food and XP source. Depth Strider and Soul Speed are both boot enchantments, yet, unlike Frostwalker, they both do not hinder the player's ability to do anything and have a max level of 3. Depth Strider increases underwater movement speed so that at level 3, the player moves as fast as they would on land. Soul Speed removes the speed debuff that Soul Sand applies to the player and adds a speed buff when moving across both Soul Sand and Soul Soil. At level 1, it applies a 40.5% increase, at level 2, it applies a 51% increase, and at level 3, it applies a 61.5% increase. Respiration and Aqua Affinity are both helmet enchantments that modify how the player exists underwater. Respiration increases the amount of time a player can breathe underwater. It adds 15 seconds for each level and has a chance of not taking drowning damage each second. The higher the level, the higher the chance. Aqua Affinity increases a player's mining speed while underwater. Normally, the player takes 5 times longer to mine when submerged, however, Aqua Affinity completely removes that debuff. Channeling is a trident enchantment that strikes lightning on any entity that is hit, as long as it's thunderstorming. Mobs struck by lightning will be affected just like a normal lightning strike, including turning creepers into charged creepers, villagers into witches, pigs into zombie pigmen, and mushrooms turning into brown mushrooms. The only downside to this enchantment is that the thunderstorm is a requirement. Thunderstorms are a rare spawning event, having a 1.44% chance of happening and 9 real-life hours between thunderstorms, making channeling a somewhat useless enchantment. Still pretty cool though. Quick Charge is a crossbow enchantment that reduces the time it takes to load a crossbow. The normal loading time is 1.25 seconds. Each enchantment level lowers that time by 0.25 seconds, with Quick Charge 3 resulting in crossbows taking 0.5 seconds to load. The final enchantment in B tier is Windburst, a mace exclusive enchantment. Windburst creates a knockback effect for the player that pushes them upwards upon successfully executing a smash attack, effectively allowing players to chain smash attacks. However, the burst effect does not negate fall damage, and players will receive damage upon hitting the ground. At level 1, the player is pushed 8 blocks high, at level 2 it doubles to 16, and at level 3 the player is launched 24 blocks high, enough to kill an unarmored player. This enchantment would be A or even S tier, but the requirement to have armor or other enchantments in order to avoid damage or death drastically reduces its value. All of these enchantments are B tier. All the way over at A tier, we have some of the best enchantments in the game. Some of them are incredible on their own, and some just perfectly complement other enchantments. Starting off, we have Silk Touch, an enchantment which can be added to all the primary tools. It causes certain blocks to drop themselves instead of their usual drops. For example, when mining diamond ore, diamonds are usually dropped. However, when Silk Touch is applied, diamond ore itself will be dropped. Fire Aspect and Flame are two very similar enchantments in that they both light things on fire. Fire Aspect is for swords and maces, while Flame can be applied to bows. Fire Aspect adds 4 seconds of burning per level with a max level of 2, while Flame adds 5 seconds of burn damage. Mobs killed with Flame do not drop experience, but will drop cooked versions of normally dropped raw meat. Sweeping Edge is an interesting enchantment as it's the only one on this list found exclusively on Java Edition. Sweeping Edge increases the range of sweeping attacks. The max level is 3, and the higher the level, the more damage the sweeping attack does. Loyalty is a trident enchantment that causes the trident to return to the player after being thrown. The higher the level, the faster the trident returns to the player. The trident begins its return journey after hitting an entity or block. The trident will not return if thrown into the void, so avoid that. Riptide is another trident enchantment that hurls the player when they are standing in water or it's raining. Up next is Multi-Shot, a crossbow enchantment which allows players to fire 3 projectiles for each single projectile. Piercing is another crossbow enchantment which allows arrows to pass through mobs. The higher the level, the more mobs it passes through with a max level of 4. Piercing and Multi-Shot cannot be put on the same crossbow. Interestingly, Swift Sneak is the only enchantment on this list that can only be applied for leggings and is non-renewable, meaning that there are technically a finite amount of Swift Sneaks in any given world. Swift Sneak does exactly what the name implies, makes you sneak swiftly. The normal sneaking speed is 30% of walking speed, Swift Sneak 1 bumps that to 45%, Swift Sneak 2 bumps it to 60%, and Swift Sneak 3 bumps it all the way up to 75%. Thorns, much like the name implies, deals damage to attackers. Thorns can be put on every piece of armor and has a random chance of dealing 1 to 4 points of damage for any type of damage received, including melee or arrows. All of these enchantments are A tier. Moving into S tier, we have some of the best enchantments in the game. Nothing else compares to the insane advantages these enchantments give you. First up, we have Fortune. It can be applied to all mining tools including pickaxes, shovels, axes, and hoes, and increases the number of item drops from blocks. For normal ores such as coal, iron, gold, and diamond, Fortune 1 has a 33% chance of dropping 2 ore per block mined with a 66% chance of dropping 1. Fortune 2 ups that to 25% chance of dropping 2 or 3 ores per block mined with a 50% chance of dropping 1, and Fortune 3 has a 20% chance to drop 2, 3, or 4 ore per block mined with a 40% chance of dropping 1. Now, even though those numbers get lower, the chance for ore to multiply increases with each level. Without Fortune, 1 diamond ore can be mined for 1 diamond. With Fortune 1, that increases to 1 diamond ore for 1 to 2 diamonds. With Fortune 2, that gets bumped to 1 diamond ore for 1 to 3 diamonds. And with Fortune 3, 1 diamond ore can be mined for 1 to 4 diamonds. This also applies to ores like copper, nether gold, and lapis lazuli, with maximums reaching up to 20 copper, 24 nether gold, and 36 lapis lazuli per ore. Looting is a sword equivalent to Fortune. It increases the maximum number of common drops by 1 per level and increases the chance of rare mob drops dropping. Efficiency is a must-have enchantment on all of your tools. It has a max level of 5 and increases the player's mining speed. Up next is Feather Falling, another boot exclusive enchantment. Feather Falling reduces the damage you take from falling and has a max level of 4. Without Feather Falling, a player normally dies from a 23 block high fall. With Feather Falling 1, that increases to 26 blocks, Feather Falling 2 increases it to 30, Feather Falling 3 increases it to 35, Feather Falling 4 increases it to 42, and Feather Falling 4, when combined with Protection 4 on both boots and leggings, increases it to 103 blocks before death. Up next, we have the Bow Enchantment Power, a very simple enchantment that does just as the name suggests, adds power to the bow. With no enchantments, a fully charged bow will deal 6 points of damage. With Power 1, it deals 9, Power 2 increases that to 11, Power 3 bumps that to 12, Power 4 bumps that to 14, and Power 5 maxes out at 15 hearts of damage. Unbreaking is another simple but powerful enchantment. It can be applied to every enchantable item in the game and increases its durability. Unbreaking 1 gives a 100% increase, Unbreaking 2 gives a 200% increase, and Unbreaking 3 gives a 300% increase. To put that into perspective, a normal, unenchanted Elytra can fly for 7 minutes and 12 seconds before breaking. With Unbreaking 3, that time increases to 28 minutes and 48 seconds. Protection is probably the most common and important enchantment for armor. It reduces damage taken from all sources except hunger, a sonic boom, or the void. Every other type of damage is reduced, including projectile, fire, and blast damage. Protection gives a damage reduction based on the level multiplied by 4%, so 1 piece of armor with Protection 1 gives a 4% damage reduction. 4 pieces of armor with Protection 1 gives a 16% reduction, and 4 pieces of armor with Protection 4 give a 64% damage reduction. Sharpness and Impaling are 2 very similar enchantments. Sharpness can be applied to swords and axes, while Impaling can be applied to tridents. Both enchantments increase melee damage, and Impaling only increases damage against aquatic mobs. The next enchantment is Infinity, which is another aptly named enchantment. Infinity prevents regular arrows from being consumed when fired. The next enchantment is exclusive for maces. It's called Breach. Breach reduces the effectiveness of armor worn by attacked enemies. Density is an exclusive mace enchantment that increases the amount of damage dealt per block fallen. At level 1, Density adds an additional 0.5 hearts per block. At level 2, Density deals an additional 1 heart per block. At level 3, Density brings that to 1.5. At level 4, Density increases that to 2. And at level 5, Density deals an additional 2.5 hearts per block. This enchantment means that the Warden can be killed by a player with a Density 5 mace dropping from 95 blocks. Finally, the undoubtedly best enchantment in the game, Mending. Mending restores item durability using experience. When experience from any source is collected and an item with the Mending enchantment has less than full durability, the experience is used to restore the durability of that item. And with that, we've covered each and every enchantment in the game, ranked them from worst to best, and spent a painful amount of time explaining them all. With that, I bid you farewell, hope you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next Trash Panda Talks.